Doug Walker. We are live from Vista, California.
From the Casa de la Chainsaw Massacre.
Dude, seriously, it does look like we're on the set of Wolf Creek right now. It's pretty gnarly, man.
It's cozy.
Dude, it's beautiful. Like the hills in the background and the palm trees, and it's a gorgeous day. Like
Yeah.
you guys were complaining that it actually got below
Anything below 50 is absolutely outrageous for us.
but you guys actually got below freezing though.
Yeah, we could see our own breasts, and that's about
could
the
see
time.
your own breasts?
Yeah, we could see our own breasts.
Ah!
That's about the time traffic gets all shitty, and
Yeah,
everybody gets sick.
Dude, you guys were telling me that it was below 32 before I left, and I'm like sitting there. It's like 16 degrees in Denver. They got hit with a foot of snow.
Right.
Like don't get me wrong. I'm enjoying being here for sure. But you guys, what you guys call cold weather, is it? It's way colder in Kentucky.
Oh,
where you're
absolutely.
from,
Well, and Louisville specifically is a very humid climate year round. So when it's cold, it's a wet cold.
right?
And it just cuts through everything. And but yeah, I mean, like every 8, maybe 10 years, we'll get a good enough snowfall to shut the city down. But for the most part, it just gets really nasty cold, and you got pollen in the air that's frozen. So on top of allergies, you got the temperature difference, and it's just a giant snotty mess.
So like, does the pollen like get into your nose and then like freeze there? And then it's like the thing, like when
It's
like global temperatures go up.
So like, the inside of your sinuses or whatever, they get sensitive when you're breathing in cold air, and they get raw, and then that pollen just kind of thaws out right in the raw part of your sinuses, and you get essentially hay fever, but it's a frozen
so
version.
fucking gross, dude.
Yeah.
That sounds so bad.
Yeah.
Let me mute this real quick.
Cool.
Yeah, we thought it was such a nice day. It would be perfect to come and film outside today. It ended up being a little bit more trouble than we thought it would be, but it's a gorgeous day.
Yeah.
We're happy to be sitting here talking, and I'm happy to be talking with my friend Doug Walker.
Fuck yeah.
My partner in the band Monolith.
That's absolutely correct.
And before we go into the Monolith stuff, I feel like we should kind of go into our story of how this whole dance.
Oh, we're gonna go pre-Monolith days.
We're going to
Is
go
that it?
pre-Monolith,
Okay.
and we're going to talk about it. So,
Yeah, sure.
So one of the earlier shows that Ruckus played under the new band name. In fact, I think it was like one of the third or fourth shows we played since we rebranded. Is we were fortunate enough to do a show with the Hookers, who you used to play for, who are kind of an iconic Kentucky, Midwest, Southern, give me a little background on the Hookers for the people who don't know.
I mean, I'm, not an original member. The band formed, I think, around 1996. Adam, the singer, had previously been playing drums with the very first incarnation of Nashville Pussy, which had just come about after 9 Pound Hammer had kind of stopped. So he left that band, formed the Hookers, and they toured consistently for about 10 years before they just kind of slowed down a bit. And he took a few years off, did a couple different bands, toured with them, and then came back to the Hookers in about 2009, 2010, and I happened to live with him at the time. So it was just kind of one of those things. You needed a touring guitar player. I happened to be a guitar player that could go on tour, and I joined the band, and, we had a really fun time with it for a few years. And I think you're talking about the Benders show. Am I correct?
No, the Benders show was the second show that we did together. The first show that we did together was at the Rockaway.
That's right.
And the Rockaway was an interesting place because it was...
I had the bleachers on the outside and the smoking area, right?
Yeah. So for many years, the Rockaway was the Denver Triangle, which was one of the most infamous gay bars in all of Colorado, in the whole region.
So perfect place for a hooker show.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah. And what had kind of happened is when the Triangle was originally around, there weren't a lot of gay bars, so it was like one of the like underground best kept secrets. Like when we turned it into the Rockaway, they still had a buzzer under the bar that you could trip if like the cops came to raid the place, so that people in the fuck station down in the basement
could knock it off for a minute.
Yeah, could knock it off
Yeah.
and come running out, because I mean raids used to happen.
Sure.
You know, especially in a place like Colorado a long time ago when it was a little more uptight. But yeah, so it became the Rockaway, and it was kind of this like, honestly, too many cooks in the kitchen type of situation.
Sure.
It had like 8 owners or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed even that, one show you played, or we played there, you can walk into a bar and you can tell when not all is right in the world.
You can tell when different owners had a different hand in different parts
yeah,
of the business.
You kind of walk in, you get that tinge that there's some fuckery afoot. It's like,
Right. There was like all these incomplete projects, like someone had like put a car hood between the urinals, and one of the guys who ran the place. So it was made up of people from Three Kings, 15th Street Tavern,
right,
and then Freedom Auto, or the Junkyard, as we used to call it.
Yeah.
And the dude from the Junkyard who ran, super cool guy to this day, he thought he could soundproof the showroom by just like tacking tire treads to the ceiling, like something about the rubber would make the sound.
That's an interesting theory.
Yeah, I mean, it looked kind of cool, and it was just a fun, dirty, kind of shitty place, and one of my first bartending job for sure. In fact, the way I became a bartender at that place is I came on as a door guy, and they let me work there, and then a couple months later I moved up to barback, and then while I was a barback, I was working one night, and the toilets didn't work, so I went into the women's bathroom, and the toilet had stopped working, and instead of alerting anybody on the staff, they just kept pooping and peeing and like making this kind of like toilet paper, and
I have nightmares about that shit. Like literally,
it's so gross. They made this like lasagna of toilet paper and doo-doo.
Yeah,
and it just like filled up almost to the brim, and I had to go in with gloves.
So this is your bootstrap story.
Oh yeah, and like I had to pull out the doo-doo lasagna and put it in a trash bag, and I came out and I dealt with that, and the bar manager at the time was like, "You just earned yourself a bar shift. Like that's good. Kudos to you, Junior."
Yeah.
And then after that, everybody quit because the place was failing.
Yeah.
So I got half the bar shifts because I was one of like 4 bartenders that worked at the place, because everybody just quit one after another.
Poop lasagna fate. What can you say?
Yeah, man. But it managed to get my foot in the door to where I was able to go to the one up there in Denver and fudge my skills a little bit and pretend that I had more experience than I did, and became a bartender as a result of that. But then one of the guys booking at that time was Jamie DeSoto from Holly 750.
Oh, yes, Jamie.
And he was a big fan of you guys.
Yes, sir.
And so the hookers were playing, and it was you guys, us,
and Holly 750. Yeah.
And
Holly 750 played first, if I remember correctly. And then it was you guys, right? You guys played right before us.
I think you're probably right.
The reason I remember that is because every now and then when you're out on tour, not for nothing, you see a lot of the same shit every night, and a lot of times you see some bands that don't really have their shit together,
right,
haven't really figured out how to write, don't really, it's guys having fun, and that's cool. And that's awesome. But every now and then you play with a band that's good and it pisses you off. It's like these motherfuckers. And
it's like I have to destroy you so I can absorb your power.
Well, and like I was watching not you need this, but when I was watching you sing and do your front thing, I was like, oh shit, this guy. And I loved
really appreciate that.
Yeah, and I loved your voice. Absolutely loved your voice. It's like, holy shit, this is a guy that's actually up there giving it. It's not just yelling or just screaming or kind of sort of singing in one octave around it. You know what I mean? There was some skill going on, and there was some work that went into what you did. That's not what pissed me off. What pissed me off was Tay and Tony's arrogant guitar god fucking asses up there grinning.
They're really good.
Grinning ear to ear because they know how fucking good they
Right.
are. And those, I love them. Absolutely love those two dudes. Like, but, when, all's fair in love and war, when it's at a show, there's no competition in the music, but the stage show, absolutely.
Oh, and we try to pretend that there's no competitive side.
Oh, there's absolutely. And it can be healthy.
But that's important.
Yeah.
Like, it's important to have that competitive side because it drives you to get better.
Yeah.
Like, watching you guys play, like, I just remember you guys get on stage and Adam starts pulling on his gauntlet.
Yes, sir.
Starts pulling that thing on. And before, he's all, glasses and long hair and quiet and just, friendly dude.
Yeah.
And he comes up to me after our set and he goes, yeah, man, I really dug that. That was cool. We're kind of mostly seeing a lot of bands that just get up on stage and drone on. And it was really cool that you guys actually have songs that you've written. Like, he thought that was really cool. And I took it as a very high compliment, But then...
Then the gauntlet went on and everything changed.
Dude, then the gauntlet went on and everything changed. And I remember seeing you guys just lined up at the foot of the stage, just headbanging, and you all had the uniform.
Oh, yeah.
Which was tight black pants, black shirt,
and black chucks.
And black chucks.
Yep.
And just standing at the end of the stage, I remember watching you guys play and just being like, holy shit. This band is so intense and, like, dangerous.
Yeah.
Like, there was something like you guys, and now, like, we're friends, and I know you, and I know what a big softy you are, and I know what a big sweetheart you are. But at that time, I was like, dude, if we can form a bond with these guys, that we're gonna go some places.
Well, when I joined the band, Adam, because I had seen him before too, and I had never met the guy.
They're a Louisville band, right?
They're Lexington, which is there's a weird rivalry between the cities that shouldn't be there, but is. I don't know how to explain it. It's a college basketball thing that bleeds over into everything.
Yeah, I get that.
But they were a Lexington band, but I was in a band from Louisville that was really the only punk rock and roll band game in town.
Mm-hmm.
And we would get out to Lexington and play with them. And if they came through Louisville, we'd play with them. And we were kind of in the same circles or whatever. But, I mean, he was scary as shit, We'd go see him, and he was just this fucking tornado of a frontman gauntleted up, and like you want to, like, at first when I saw the gauntlets, it's like, okay, this is gonna be cheesy, and then he just transformed into this person. So when I met him to move in with him, I was expecting like this Macho Man Randy Savage personality to greet me at the door and just be like, "Oh, this is your room, brother." I'm like, "Oh my god,
the bed's made of chainsaws."
I expect him to answer the door with the gauntlets on, like, and
right,
and give me
like grab you and pull
the warrior handshake, and
come on in.
And like as soon as I open the door, he's like, "Here's my records, here's my comic books," and I'm like, "Oh fuck yeah, this is gonna be great."
Here's my G.I. Joes.
But
here's my Transformers.
When I was joining the band, he explained it to me. He's like, "We are bad time rock and roll.
Right.
We are the heels. We go out there to be as aggressive and confrontational as possible."
Which, if Adam is very true.
Oh yeah, me too.
To his interests, in comic books and film and music, and he likes all these obscure, dark bands.
Oh yeah, he's an encyclopedia of music and movies and culture in general. He's a sponge and he's constantly absorbing it. But
right,
yeah, that's kind of how he broke it down for me. And it's fun. It's fun to go up there and just be mean and not have to be the nice guy, because sometimes you're in a bad mood anyway,
right?
And you don't have to hide it. And
playing characters is fun.
Yeah, and it's cathartic. And like, okay, so like when I watch you guys, like Tony and Tay, like I said, they have this, they definitely have the arrogant guitar god thing going, but they're like the happy version of it.
Right. We had this yin and yang thing going back and forth. And like, we are totally like a good time rock and roll band.
Yeah, and like on that tour specifically, we had Brian Homer playing guitar with us.
From Stonecutters, most famously.
Phenomenal guitar player.
Right.
Like just an incredible guitar player. And and he's got he's the sweetest guy in the world, but he can turn that. He comes from a hardcore background.
Okay.
So, before he did that, he was in a really big band called oh my God, I'm gonna forget it. He's gonna kill me. My own victim, I believe they were called, and they were big. Like they got on like Sony. And,
Oh wow.
Yeah, and after that, he did Stonecutters, and eventually he did the Hookers for a few tours. But we were the exact opposite. We were cocky guitar players too, but we were more like, "Fuck you!"
Right.
We're gonna shove our shit down your fucking throat,
Right. And I remember that persona on stage, and then being surprised by just how amiable you guys were.
Yeah.
Like you and Telford and Adam and all those guys, just super friendly. And you ended up, I want to say after the show, you went back to Jerry's place, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, you guys ended up staying over at Jerry's place, and we stayed in touch over the years and kind of exchanged numbers and things like that. And then the next time you came
that was
through,
the Bender show. Yeah,
we did a 2-night thing at Bender's where, or no, we did what we did is it was Baker versus Cap Hill, and we did one show one night at Three Kings, and then we did one show one night at Bender's, and you guys were on the Bender's show.
All right.
And a little funny anecdote about that show, I was just thinking about this the other day actually, is those were during my drinking and drugging days.
Yes, they were.
So
me as well.
Yeah. So I remember leaving to go buy Coke, and then while I was gone, Luke Schmaltz, the then one of the owners of Bender's, sends me this text message. He's like, "Hey, amigo, you left a gigantic bar tab here. Yeah, I can't have you walking out on it, blah, blah, blah." And I'm all drunk and jacked up. So I get all defensive. I'm like going off on him on the text. I go back and I start shouting at him, and I'm like, "What, you don't trust me? You don't trust me to come back?" And now like years later being on the other side of that.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's like, of course he didn't trust
Sure.
me. I was a drunk high person. Like
Yeah.
I left a bar tab open and disappeared. It's perfectly reasonable for him to assume that I'm probably not coming back.
Yeah.
But I did come back, and you ended up staying at our place in Bear Valley.
Yeah,
with us.
we ended up in a garage doing coke and smoking cigarettes and figuring out all of our problems all night.
Yeah, all night. And I think it was there that we first began to talk about playing together.
Yeah, the idea. Yeah.
Because you and Tony were jamming together a little bit.
The first time.
The first time?
Were
you guys jamming at the
Yeah,
second
we
time
did
we
the thing where the guitar players pass the guitar back and forth, and it's
Right.
a friendly thing where you're trying to one-up each other, but no one's saying they're trying to one-up each other.
Right.
And we were both just smiling at each other the whole time because it's like, guitar
that
players
like
making
smug
a,
half smile. Like
It's like, oh, that was a good one, dude. All right, check this out. Oh, yeah, that was sweet. Oh, dude, fuck, that was badass. Like, we're just falling in love with each other.
right.
But the second time, no, that at that time, I was kind of coming to the end of my time in the Hookers. It was the last tour I was gonna do with them, and things just started kind of, I don't know. It was fun at first, and then after a couple of years of it, like it started getting a little weird sometimes when we would go out, and I had some personal problems, and I just wasn't really happy with it. And I knew when I got back from that tour that I was going to be moving out to California.
Right.
And
it's been almost a decade since you moved out
yeah,
here,
it's been
right?
about 8 years.
Yeah.
So, I just, every time we toured out to California, we'd get these crazy offers like, "Hey, we're shooting this X Games series for ESPN2. Why don't you come set up on top of the half pipe while we do a bunch of rad skateboard tricks?" We're like, "Well, we'd love to, but we've got to go down to San Diego and play for 10 people tonight, so we're going to have to say no."
Right.
And it would drive me crazy because I'm like, man, let's just, obviously, I'd never cancel a show, but it's like, if we lived here, we would get these opportunities.
Right.
And, granted, this is a band that's got 15 years under its belt, so it's a little different, but I decided, I didn't like, I was kind of done living in Louisville. I wanted to try something else.
Well, and you wanted to change the scenery too.
Yeah,
and you were pursuing a relationship at that time.
Yeah, lots of things. But, one thing led to another, and I moved out here. And while I was driving out, I had the conversation with Adam as to whether I was going to continue to do the band or not, because they were working on a new record. And I was like, I don't know. I need to get out there and get my feet planted and figured it out. And he's like, well, can't wait for you. I was like, all right, well,
I understand.
yeah. And we're still, pretty good friends to this day.
That's really cool that you were able to keep that going. I mean, I think at the end of the day, you want what's best for the people you care about.
Yeah.
And
it's like I said too. I was never an original member of the band. I was
right.
I played the part pretty well, and I think I fit the band. I did it. I feel like I did a good job when I was in the band, and I think they were happy with me. But at the end of the day, I was like, well, you found me, you'll find somebody else, and they did. They went through. I think now they're getting ready to do a show with their original guitar players, which is really cool.
Right.
Because Stoney.
Yeah, you mentioned something about that.
Yeah, Stoney, which is Noel, and Chris are both just incredible rock guitar players, and they're the real deal. And I never, that was kind of it. Like, this is big shoes to fill, and I knew I'd never fill them, so I just tried to make my own shoes.
Right.
But they're back with their original guitar players for anything they're doing in the upcoming future. And Adam's, he's 100% busy with Savage Master now, and
right, because he's also in Savage Master,
Yeah.
which we should mention to people. Like Adam's been around a long time.
Yeah, Adam's a staple, and to be honest with you, he's one of those guys where really musically everything he touches is golden. Like he just has the ear, and he knows how to make anything catchy.
Right.
Like he's got a really good deep appreciation of pop music, and he knows how to make heavy, angry, evil stuff still catchy. You may be singing about something horrible, but it's stuck in your head for days and days and days because
Right.
it's catchy.
He sings like a heel.
Mm-hmm.
Like he sings like a bad guy wrestler.
Yeah,
like when you listen to especially when you listen to those Hookers live recordings, because the stuff I really liked about your guy about the Hookers was all the old Hookers stuff.
Oh yeah.
And like when you listen to some of those old tracks, it's all just screaming guitars, and then just like Adam, like, yeah, you motherfuckers, are you ready to go? This one, like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, just super fun.
Yeah.
I love that part of the band, man.
Yeah, it was a fun band to be in. It was a lot of fun.
You got to see the world doing that.
Yeah, got to tour a lot.
Is that the most touring you did?
With one band, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I toured for years in the hardcore circuit and punk rock circuit from the late 90s on. Just various bands that would go out. Some would go out 2 weeks a year. Some would go out 2 weeks every 6 months. Most of it was East Coast.
Right.
Like most of my touring experience is just touring the East Coast and south of the U.S.
Well, that's the most densely populated area of the country.
Well, when you live in Louisville, you're 5 hours away from a bunch of big markets.
Right.
But it's not necessary. It's a different kind of vibe on the East Coast.
Did you guys have a really healthy scene in Louisville? Because you played in a bunch of bands, right? Like we've talked about that before. You played in a ton of bands.
Louisville's a can of worms I'm not sure you want to open, but we can go there if you want to.
Let's talk about it, man.
All right.
Throw all the shade you want.
I
mean, I don't think you're gonna just like go off and start throwing shade.
I do come across as throwing a lot of shade towards that town, and it's not like it's one of those things where when you see your buddies who could be doing better,
right?
And you're like, hey man, there's a better way. And, far be it from me. Obviously, I haven't figured it all out. But I've found ways to play the volume, like the amount of music that I want to play and still be able to sustain a life.
Right.
And that's very difficult to do there because there's not any industry for it. And there's this kind of mentality of, well, we're never going to make it anyway, so why bother? And nobody really makes it, so they're not wrong. But
so the venues are kind of like fly by night and don't really stick around
for a long time. For a long time, it was a 5-year cycle, and it would always the cycles. You could name the era of the Louisville scene by which venue was open.
Right.
And now I will say it's always had an incredible scene, like incredible players. Every generation has a new group of kids that come out and do great stuff. Like there's a band from Oldham County, which is just outside of Louisville, called Knock Loose, and they're big as shit. They're huge. And, you know, they work their asses off, but a lot of guys don't get out of that city.
I have heard, I read in Martin Atkinson's book, Martin Atkins's book, Tour Smart. He was talking about, he's like, if you want to, he's like, the instinct is to go to the coast, like either go to New York or California, but realistically, you're better off going to a place like Nashville because you have access to so much, like 70% of the U.S. population is within 8 hours of Nashville.
Right. Louisville's
kind of the same thing.
2 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Nashville. Like,
so you were in the same spot. So touring was a big part
at the time, you know, Nashville's come up a lot in the past 2 decades.
Right.
Like there was already a really pretty strong music industry there before I moved, but it was primarily, you know, country western, like alt country, more Nashville related music.
Right.
You know what they're known for, and it's really been in the past 10, 15 years where you've seen just that city explode in new ways. Atlanta too. You know, a lot of the southern cities have grown, and you would think, you know, that would happen in Louisville too, but it doesn't happen that much. The underground scene stays underground, and the bands that kind of get bigger than that generally don't get included in the underground anymore. And I don't know, it's a hard thing to explain.
So it's like it's like you can never come home again sort of thing. Like once you leave the underground,
kind of,
like
yeah. And you know, I have a lot of guys that were my peers and friends that have died, you know, before I left and since I left, and it's a lot of heroin overdoses, a lot of suicides. And it's a tough place to live if you're a creative person because there's not a lot there for you.
Right.
There's not a lot of opportunity. And when there's no opportunity, a lot of times you lose hope. And a lot of these guys die very young and very, like, just insanely talented, insanely troubled people that are in a place that it's unhealthy for them.
I remember you telling me once that one of the unique things about that part of the country is that because the weather sucks so bad, it produces this disproportionate number of really insanely good musicians because there's nothing to do 6 months out of the year.
Yeah, sit inside and work on it.
Except sit inside and play your guitar and do drugs.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, the opioid crisis hit that part of the country exceptionally hard. And we had
a long time ago.
Well, and it's still going.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it keeps flip-flopping back and forth between either opioid medications or heroin, whichever one they can get their hands on.
Right.
But it's just not it wasn't a healthy place for me specifically.
Right.
I mean, I've seen I've seen a lot of my friends too that it wasn't a healthy place for either, but they never tried to get out.
Right.
Or they tried to get out and they couldn't stay out.
It's like Patton Oswalt talks about the curse of the small, or the test of the small town. Mm-hmm. It's like at one point you either go, I'm going to get out of here before I kill everybody and myself, or I'm going to stay here and get a job at the Citgo so I can fill my truck up for free.
Right. Yeah, kind of,
Right.
sort of. And I mean, you know, and that's not to say that there aren't guys there that produce and put out really good stuff, but a lot of them don't make it outside the city very much. And there's a couple of venues that have been running steady for close to 10 years now, so that's better. But there's still venues that have come and gone in that time. A lot of them are like different names, different ownership.
Right.
You know, it's a tough racket no matter where you are.
Right.
But when there's not really any kind of climate for success,
right?
Like there's no the idea of
what's the poverty level like out there?
I mean, it's not, you know, the cost of living's different, so the poverty level is a little bit different there.
People can get by with less.
Yeah, ideally. I mean, you know, it's still not cheap by any stretch of the amount. You know, rent's probably, you could probably get an apartment for what it costs to get a room out here, but you're still paying, you know, when you're getting rooms out there, you're still paying $500-$600 at least.
Right.
So it's not like dirt cheap where you can just, you know, you don't have to worry about money at all. I don't know. I'm pretty far removed from their real estate prices. But,
right. It's been a long time since you've been there.
Yeah. It's, you know, I try to go back and visit, and it's always it's an interesting situation because it feels like you're walking through someone else's lifetime.
Right.
But it's not a bad place to live. It's just it's tough for creative people that want to be able to pursue that to a more intense degree, I guess.
Right.
Like a lot of people I know have moved or died, and most of the guys that I was playing music with back in the day aren't there anymore for one reason or the other.
Yeah, when we went out to breakfast today, I was thinking for a little bit about how many, because last Sunday was the 6th anniversary of my last hangover.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about how many people I know that have lost their lives literally and figuratively due to drugs and alcohol. Alcohol especially. Alcohol's the more insidious one. And I'm sorry, I know I play in a party rock band, and I'm probably bumming people out and being a buzzkill by saying this, but I mean, the facts are facts. It is one of the most, if not the most dangerous drug there is, alcohol. And it's like people will just sit on a bar stool and waste away.
Yep.
Because they've got this association of that being part of their identity or being part of being a rock and roller. You're
not going to get an argument from me. I got all my drinking out of my system when I was a teenager.
You just never liked it, right?
No, it's like I don't know, the feeling of being drunk never appealed to me.
Right.
Like I'm too much of a control freak. Like I have to have control of myself, and the amount of bad decisions I've made under the influence of alcohol, and then I look back and I look at those decisions, and it's like, how did you do that?
Right.
And I'm extremely susceptible to hangovers.
Right.
And I don't like them.
Right.
And I'm
like I said at the beginning of the podcast, like we both pretty much have hangovers, and we didn't do anything.
I'm far from a sober person. I'm not a sober person in the slightest. Alcohol has never appealed to me, and I will tell you, it's really weird because I've always been in bands that, there's a culture where if you play a certain type of rock and roll, it's expected that you're an alcoholic. It's expected that you know.
Oh yeah, it becomes part of your identity.
Yeah, and it's like the sex, drugs, and rock and roll thing all go hand in hand. I said something to Isaac from the Heroin last night. It's like,
shout out to the Heroin, by the way.
Yeah,
great show last night.
Great man. But what I said to him is like, some guys get into it for the sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and they don't last. Some guys get into it for just the sex and the rock and roll, and they don't last.
Right.
The guys who just get into it for the rock and roll, those are the lifers.
Right.
And those are the guys that stick with it no matter what.
Well, I mean, you just see people's, because even if you don't literally die, and when I stopped drinking, the words that I said to the therapist that helped me out were, I may not literally die. There's a good chance of it, but it might destroy my relationships. It might drive me to madness. It'll destroy my health. It's a toxin. And again, I'm far from one to judge or be preachy or whatever, but I will tell you, like I was saying, when I've been doing this for a long time, and it's expected that it's part of the culture that you're doing, and I never thought I'd be able to quit.
I can't tell you how many times people have come up to me in bars, like even last night when we were getting ready to leave, this guy's getting ready to hand me a shot, and I'm like, usually I'm polite about it and I'll take it, and if they're making me do a shot with him, I'll be like, okay, like one shot, I can get away with that.
That's it.
But again, being a non-drinker, it doesn't take much.
It hits you right away.
Yeah. So
I've never seen you intoxicated. I've seen you high as a Georgia pine.
Well, you're seeing me high as a Georgia pine right now,
but
that's besides the point.
We got some great pot too, by the way. We've got some really good pot.
Are we about to have the Denver versus California pot debate?
No. I mean, the pot that we got when I first got out is fantastic.
Yeah.
Excellent pot.
Hey, man, Denver's got great pot, too.
Everybody's got great pot.
There's no reason to fight about this.
There's no reason to fight about pot. It's like fighting about green chili.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, wait.
So I work with a guy who's from New Mexico, and he does the whole, like, Colorado green chili's trash, and da-da-da. It's like, hey, man, we can both have things.
Yeah, you know what? There's nothing wrong with some green chili, and I like salsa verde too.
There's
It's
nothing
okay.
to compete about.
It's okay.
Yeah,
But no, doing the band thing for a long time, you know, without drinking, like I said, usually I'll take a drink from them and I'll thank them and I'll kind of walk around for a minute and try to give it about 5 minutes or so. Then I'll find them and I'll be like, you know, oh hey man, I got you a drink. Thanks for getting me a drink. And you know, you re-gift it to them and they.
You re-gift it to them?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's hilarious.
You know, it's how you make friends.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of times when you get the people like, dude, can I just say that people in action sports communities are disproportionately bigger drunks than like anywhere else I've been. Like places with surfers and places with skiers and snowboarders.
Oh yeah, well it's again, it's part of the culture. They're expected to be party animals,
Right.
You can't be a party animal unless you drink. And it's. I mean, you know, without getting all big conspiracy on it, we have all grown up being inundated with advertisement from alcohol manufacturers for our entire lives telling us that if you want to have fun, this is what you need.
Well, you see Slash slugging down the bottle of Jack Daniels, and he's got a Coke spoon around his neck, and then you read his autobiography, and it's like, yeah, that destroyed my heart.
Yeah.
I have a pacemaker now.
Yeah.
That shocks, or a defibrillator or whatever.
Right.
That shocks my heart because
Yeah.
I destroyed it with alcohol and cocaine.
And I mean, you know, I've had my fun with cocaine in the past, but it was one of those things where just one day I decided I didn't want to do it anymore.
Like, it was never. I would even posit that it was never fun. It just gave you a flood of dopamine. You know what I mean? Like it just like flooded your brain with drugs. And wait, what's going on?
I'm gonna grab my cigarettes because we're talking about cocaine and it's making me want to smoke a cigarette.
No, I mean it's like it floods your brain with feel good chemicals, but I don't remember ever feeling like particularly happy on cocaine. You know what I mean? Like I had chemicals surging through my body and I would have like this elevated state, but I never felt like content and well-being from doing cocaine. You know what I mean?
I do.
Hey, quick shout out to all the people watching the stream. How you doing out there? Right on, man. Hey, we're going to do our best to pull the audio off of this video and see if Gordo can clean it up and make it into a podcast episode.
So, getting back to what you were saying before I so rudely interrupted you.
No, you're fine.
I think when I first started fucking with it, it felt like I was happier. It certainly made dealing with certain people in my life easier when we were both doing it.
Right.
And, you know, that was part of it, too, is I was involved with someone who's very much into it. And it's not really a social drug for the most part, but usually kind of is.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like most people don't want to share, but they also don't want to do it alone.
Right.
You know, because there's that whole fucking, we'll call it powder white guilt.
Right. So you've got to be just friendly enough to get invited to do the coke without being overly jovial and annoying and seeming like a narc.
So when you're a musician and you're doing a lot of traveling, playing a lot of shows, when someone offers you a drink and you turn it down, you get congratulated as if you've accomplished something. They're like, hey, you know, that's awesome, man. I'm so happy. I'm really proud of you, man. It's like, you know what, thanks. That's fine. I'll take it.
Yeah.
You know, now, when you're a musician and you're traveling and you're playing a lot of shows and someone offers you free cocaine and you don't take it, they think you're a fucking narc.
Right.
When I did those shows with you guys, when I came out to Denver, when we played at, I believe, the Oriental, right?
Right.
So they have that nasty green room downstairs.
Uh-huh.
And I don't if whoever it was is watching and I forgot your name, I apologize. But there was some cocaine being handed around, and I was down there by myself with the guy who was handing it out, and he's like, "You want a bump, man?" I'm like, "Oh, you know, I'm good." He's like, "You sure?" I'm just like, I'm like, he's like, well, I'm not trying to like. I'm like, no, it's fine, man. I just don't want any.
Well, then he's embarrassed because he's a vampire, and he thought you were a vampire too.
Sure.
And then he exposed his vampirism.
Yeah.
And it turns out you're not a vampire.
Yeah, and it's like
you're just a spooky dude.
It's like I said earlier. This is me on average, and I always kind of look like a mess. So people are just kind of like offering me the drugs.
They're like, "Oh, Doug's a train wreck, man."
He looks like he needs some hair of the dog. I'm like, no, bro, this is just normal. I just don't give a fuck.
This is weed and burritos and video games.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hey, speaking of video games, I learned something new about you today.
Oh Lord.
And I haven't learned anything new about you in a while.
Out me in front of all these people?
No, man, I don't think it's outing you. I think it's very cool and an interesting thing. You are one of the top Borderlands 3 players in the country.
I don't know about that. I'm a streamer. I put out some videos.
What's your Twitch channel? Channel?
No, we're not going to get into that. So moving on back to band-related shit.
Okay. I think it's cool.
It's okay. It's it's something to do. It keeps me out of trouble.
Hey, man, they get more views. Like Twitch channels get more views than probably everything we've got streaming right now.
For whatever reason, no matter how much music I put out, nothing seems to entertain people more than listening to me talk shit about something. I don't know what it is. Apparently, I have a gift, but.
Because you're also a world-class shit poster too.
Not
even. I don't even think shit post is fair.
No, it's fair.
Is it fair? Well, you are definitely I wouldn't consider you a shit poster because you definitely write what I used this term when I got into town and we were talking about it.
Yeah.
You write essays, and many times they get a reaction out of people, and your comments on your posts just quite often turn into a total dumpster fire.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
so in that sense, it could be considered shit posting.
I try as hard as I can not to limit my friends based on political affiliation or any of the other things that have really divided everyone over the past 4 years. It gets harder.
Right. Because people can be very aggressive and antagonistic.
We're adversarial. Without getting too deep into it, we're becoming more and more polarized by the minute.
Right.
And it's happening in real time.
Right.
Because the information just comes so fast.
Right.
And these memes, man, they're so quick.
Well, and not only that, and we've mentioned this multiple times on the podcast, something I learned about the algorithms recently is that it's not that they're just designed to show you more stuff that you like. They are designed to guide you towards more predictable behavior and habits. So what ends up happening is through those little micro interactions online, people end up becoming more and more drawn to a very specific binary black and white ideology.
If I make an opinionated post on Facebook or whatever, and
even something nuanced.
Yeah, and
if you do something that is nuanced,
if it starts generating the traffic, which it tends to, because like I said, I haven't been that great about filtering friend requests over the years, and some really interesting people have slipped through those cracks. And when it opens up, someone will say something, and I got a lot of friends that are hard left, and I got a lot of friends who are on the right, and it just turns into it's just monkeys in the zoo throwing shit at each other.
Yeah, they just start screaming at each other.
I mean, my post will get up, over 1,000 comments in 24 hours sometimes. Thankfully, it's not very often, and it's never pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
It's never people it's usually just one person fighting viciously against a tank of angry piranhas that smell blood.
Let me ask you something. Do you think it helps or hinders your music career?
I don't know.
Do you think they're just unrelated? Are people able to separate online persona from the band persona?
Some can, some can't. That explains why there are Morrissey fans that hate Ted Nugent. I can't explain it. Some people, I think everyone is selective about that. It just depends on how much they appreciate the material and how much they dislike what someone has to say. Mm-hmm. And
there's that degree of confirmation bias and
right, because I mean, I've had this discussion at length with many people. If you really want to start getting into every musician or artist that you enjoy's closets, you're gonna find shit that you're
gonna find stuff in every human being's closet.
That's just how it is. Like everyone has their own little things, and musicians, generally speaking, are crazy people.
Right, and they tend to be. Many of them tend to abuse drugs.
Yeah,
and abusing drugs makes you mentally ill for the duration of the time and beyond.
It is what it is. But as far as whether it hurts or helps, I mean, in some ways it helps. Like, if I have a shit post that blows up to 3,000 and I'm real quick about it, I can usually get a little bit more traction on it.
Get like a Call of the Wild poster.
Yeah. By the way, we're playing this show. If you guys want to come and talk about it.
If you want to come fight me, show up to the Poorhouse Saloon tonight.
But at the same point in time, it polarizes. And my whole attitude about it is this: if I say something that pisses someone off so bad that they don't care to listen to my music, they're not someone I want listening to it anyway.
Right.
And I've had this conversation with people I'm in bands with where I'm like, at some point as a human being, you have to draw a line in the sand. As do you stand for anything or not? And if you stand for something, have convictions.
And it's okay not to like people.
Yeah.
It's okay to not be friends.
Yeah, okay, so
we still have to exist on the planet together, but it's okay to just be like, this guy is not my guy.
Right. You see, we spoke earlier about just the way it is with music today, and everybody's scrounging, everybody's scrapping to try to get what they can, and it creates this mentality of we have to get every single person we can get, and I don't buy that.
Right.
I just don't buy it. I would rather have 100 people that give a shit about the music and like what I have to say than have 1,000 where most of them don't. It doesn't matter to me. Like no one's
right.
I'm not selling 1 million records either way. So if there's like 3 or 4 people that aren't going to buy a copy of the 50 copies I sell, that's okay.
Right.
I'll get.
And we talked today at breakfast about one of the most liberating things that you can find out is that nobody cares.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, nobody cares.
Yeah.
And there is so much stuff competing for people's attention and energy that even if we had this stand-up comedian on the show several episodes ago, this guy Matt Kobos, and he was talking about the open mic scene, and he was talking about one of the things he really likes about it is people can come in and they can eat shit and they can even cross a line and say something that maybe they shouldn't have said. And they can come back the next week and nobody is out for their blood.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that applies more than we think to just the general society in general.
Yeah.
Is people who want to destroy you to further their agenda, they're going to put you up as a sacrificial lamb. But most people, even if they get angry at you about something, are going to forget about it in a very short amount of time because just so much happens in the time in between. And
unfortunately, though, as much as you can, there's a lot of truth of nobody cares, but unfortunately, sometimes people do care, and they care for stupid reasons.
Right.
And that's why bands have to change their name.
Well, and yeah.
That's why bands have to cancel shows.
Right.
And and there's different degrees. Sometimes I agree with it. Sometimes I don't. Like, with what happened with like Take a few years ago, there's something to be said of if you don't want to get protests, maybe don't paint a swastika on your chest at a show in Germany.
Right.
And I get it.
Because they don't find that funny.
Yeah, I get it.
All.
That's like a really bold statement, but at the same point in time, that kind of shit don't wash off.
Well, and with things like black metal, the entire ethos behind that genre is displaying the most horrific and offensive imagery that you can.
Right.
So you end up in this thing where it's like you get activist types, and we've seen this happen a lot in Denver, where you get people who are activists and God bless them for being, anti-fascist, anti-racist activists. I we talked about how Courage Crew was a big presence in
Right.
Kentucky, and it's like, on one hand, you're like, thank you for coming in and scaring off the real Nazis. At the same time,
Yeah, could you stop beating us up for smoking cigarettes now?
Yeah.
You know, it's
At the same time, you've got something that is a form of art, which is like, there are trauma movies where there are characters that are repulsive, repellent human beings. You know what I mean? You know, you see like what is the B movie, Ilsa of the SS?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
stuff like that. Where it's just, it's designed to be as shocking.
And that
as
was
possible.
that was a very popular costume for Halloween for a long time.
Right.
Not so much anymore.
Not so much anymore. No.
You know.
But you look at something like that, and the lines, I think, especially in recent years, have gotten a lot fuzzier with, like, okay, what is artistic expression and what is truly, what is true ideology? Like, who is really trying to present an ideology to their audience? You know what I mean? And we've seen the lines get blurred on that. But yeah, you see people having to change their names, and you can disagree with it. And in many cases, I have disagreed with bands whose shows were shut down by protest. You know, at the same time, we don't have any control over anything but our response to it.
Pretty much.
And if the market decides that this is not going to fly, you can fight it so long, but is it the hill that you're willing to die on? Because the market has decided.
And that's what it is. That's what it comes down to, is which hill are you willing to die on?
Right. I'm willing to die on very few hills.
Yeah.
You know, fewer and fewer hills as I get older.
Yeah.
If somebody came up to me and decided my name was offensive, I'd be like, oh, like, and if enough people started doing it, I mean, I don't see it happening.
Yeah.
But like, if enough people showed up and started doing that, I'd be like, all right, I guess we got to rebrand, or we're not going to get shows anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't know. But, you know, getting back to the whole idea of the no one cares, I you know, it's one of those things where anyone going into it has to understand that you have to care enough to do it, you know, and you have to do it for yourself. At the end of the day, you got to go out there and make the music you want to make. You know, it's got to be a self-gratifying thing.
Right.
Because if you go into it for the money and the fame and the wealth, you know, all those things, you're not gonna last, you know.
Right.
And that's, I don't know. It's a weird thing, but it's one of those things where if it's in you, it's in you, and you don't have a choice.
Right.
You know, and we just make the most of it. And,
right.
You know, like I always say, it's just a series of chasing life affirming moments. It's like my mantra.
Right.
You know, oh, this is why I do this. Okay, cool. Now the next 5 shows are going to suck, but that 6th show, it'll make it all worth it.
You increase your odds of having the good show by going out and rolling the dice.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. Hey, I think now's a good time to take a quick break. We'll just throw a little Be Back in 5 thing up on the stream. And for those of you who are watching at home, we're going to please hold for this quick chronic break, and we'll come back and we'll give a shout out to our sponsors. Oh, I got the BRB thing up.
Cool. Are there actually people interacting?
I haven't seen any of the engagement stuff, but I've just seen people coming in and out. But at the end, we'll check the comments and responses and stuff like that.
Thanks for making me famous.
Yeah, of course. I'll start doing the sponsor shout out. All right. Hopefully that low-level hum doesn't annoy the rest of you as much as it annoys me. Hopefully. Let's give a quick shout-out to our sponsors while Doug's rotating his laundry. Oh, first, let's take this down. All right, first and foremost, Matula Plumbing. Matula! Shit rolls downhill. Don't be at the bottom. Your number 2 is our number 1 priority. Your shit is our bread and butter. Angie's List, Super Service Award winner back in 2011. 1-1's the only one that matters. Man, he'll wear the booties for you. Jerry Matula, he's a good guy. The master of poopers himself. If you're in the Chicago area and you need the shit piped out of your house, hit up our boy, Jerry Matula. RocketSpace Rehearsal Studios in Denver, Colorado. Just off 27th and Larimer, over by the Larimer Lounge there. Go see our boy Mikey Mulligan over at the Larimer Lounge. Have a couple drinks, and then go in and enjoy their clean, comfortable, climate-controlled, and just spacious rehearsal spaces there at RocketSpace. Fully equipped, so that basically means you ain't got to carry shit. Just bring your guitar and your drumsticks and some buddies and go have a good time. RocketSpace, you ain't got to carry shit. Flipside Music in Denver, Colorado on South Tacoma Street over there on the Rock Block. Super excited about all the stuff that they've been doing over there. Ike took me on a tour recently. They've got lesson spaces. They've got a nice little jam space, a nice comfortable little jam space where you can hang out and try stuff out. They've got a repair shop in the back, and they have the largest selection of effects pedals in the region. That is a fact. I mean, I got that information from the Flipside people, but I digress. Evergroove Studio in Evergreen, Colorado, the best recording studio ever in the history of the universe. My favorite place to go work on records. 70% solar powered. We're getting our record mixed and mastered there right now. We're super excited about it. It is, if nothing else, the most beautiful place that you can go. Located in the Black Mountain region of Evergreen. Yeah, go to evergroove.com. Talk to Brad and the gang about your next project. What else? Oh, the NugNation.com. Home of the Nugs and their wacky adventures. Stay tuned for a whole bunch of stuff that we got coming out of there. Some stuff we're doing with some great local cannabis brands and some stuff that we're doing with Redman. And we're about to drop our interview with Ritz here soon. And tell Bong Burgundy that the boys sent you. TheNugNation.com. Check it out. Let's see. What else? Oh, Mutiny Information Cafe to South Broadway in Denver, Colorado. Mutiny is everything. Records, comics, books, coffee, live events, podcasts. I actually just did Jake Fairley from Hail Satan's new podcast, Scream For Me Denver, which was super, super cool to sit down with the Hail Satan guys. Had a really good time doing that. We played Mutiny with Monolith.
Yeah. We did.
Matt from Mutiny said that Monolith is his favorite project that I've ever been involved with.
That's high praise.
Yeah, man. So Mutiny is great. Mutiny is everything. Tell them the boys sent you. Let's see. What else? Oh, of course, our patrons, the people who support us via a small recurrent contribution on patreon.com/MF Ruckus. You guys make the world go round, man. It makes us able to do podcasts, to live stream our shows, to fly Tony back and forth, to, what else? To get merch printed, to pay for tours, to rent vans, to rent equipment, just everything. Oh, and to record our new album at Evergroove Studio. Just everything you can imagine, that Patreon budget goes to help us do. So thank you so much to our patrons for helping us do what we do. If you want to help us make cool shit, go become a patron at patreon.com/MF Ruckus. Doug is back. I think I got all the sponsors. I could be wrong. Gordo could be sitting there gritting his teeth going, you forgot so-and-so. But I think I got everybody. So, Doug, in this next half, I want to talk to you more specifically about Monolith.
Okay.
I want to talk to you a little bit about the backstory. I want to talk to you about the shows that we got coming up. Oh, and let's put this up in the thing. Just so everyone knows, if you look in your upper right-hand corner of the stream, we've got some T-shirts printed by Blackout Screen Printing. The art is by Jay Partylord. It's really, really fantastic work. Jay drew this drawing, which is based on our song Twin Wizards off the first EP that we did. Jay drew this the first time we played at Three Kings together. And the first time the only time Monolith played Denver.
Right.
And Jay was like, let me draw a T-shirt for you. And I was like, absolutely. And he drew this Twin Wizards thing, and then we didn't do anything with it for a while. And just before the trip, I was like, man, it's too bad to let that thing go. We got to make that into a shirt. And so I had this limited run of shirts printed. You can get yours by going actually to the MF Ruckus Big Cartel page at mfruckus.bigcartel.com. We are going to play in Pasadena tonight, so we're going to be selling out of a lot of stuff. But if you want to reserve yours, you can do so online during this stream and get some of them set aside for you before we go up to Pasadena and everybody buys them up. So go check that out. Yeah, man. So we were kind of talking about how we met and all the stuff with the hookers. And
so it all started in a dingy garage.
Right. And we just got to talking while being on. This is probably the only case I could make for drugs being a good thing.
Sure.
Because without drugs, we probably wouldn't have stayed up all night talking.
To be honest with you, up to the full length, really, everything about Monolith was pretty much powered by cocaine. Yeah, like I said, at that point, I was pretty sure that was going to be my last tour. I hadn't made my mind up.
Right.
Like, my mind was made up later in that tour, but I was leaning really heavily towards it. And for whatever reason, you kind of seemed like you were ready to do something else, too.
Yeah, at that time, Tony was starting to talk about wanting to go back home to Chicago. And Tay had left the band at that point, or was leaving the band.
He was leaving.
And Jerry was kind of in the process of leaving. So it seemed like we were stagnating a little bit.
Well, you guitar rock band, all your guitar players are going.
Right. So it was at that point that I started putting feelers out for, like, I knew that Ruckus would probably not die, but I knew that I had to go do something else because we were in a downswing in our career.
Right.
And so I started putting out feelers to a lot of people and followed up on the conversation that we had. And you almost immediately started sending me stuff.
Oh, yeah, pretty much. Like, okay, so I moved out to California right after that tour. And I would say after I'd been here for about 4 or 5 months, I got into my own place, and as soon as I did, I started collecting equipment I could use to demo stuff out on my own. And, you know, when I was much, much younger, like in my early 20s, I had tried to record by myself, and it had not gone particularly well.
Right.
So, you know, I hadn't really tried that again, but, you know, it'd been 15 straight years of recording with other bands and learning more about, you know, how to do it. So I was like, okay, you know, I'll give it another shot. Maybe it won't be as catastrophic as it was last. Like, it was so bad it traumatized me not to try it again for 15 years.
Right.
And there's one or two people that still have copies of that shit, and they, oh man, they blackmail me at least once a year with it. Like, I'm gonna show someone the tape. I'm like, don't you fucking dare. Like, for years, I tracked them down because I remembered who I'd given them to, and I would go over to their houses, you know, to hang out. And if I found the tape, I'd take it. And I'd bury it, and I'm never telling anybody where they're buried. But it was that bad. So I started gathering just, you know, electric drums so I could do stuff without making a lot of noise, and a little digital 8-track that you could, you know, do multiple tracks off of. And, you know, I wanted to do, I'd never done a proper metal band. Like, it had always been hardcore or punk rock or speed rock and, you know, and I'd always find ways to slip little metal nuances into all these different things because I really wanted to play, like, you know, classic metal guitar, like the 70s through, like, maybe the late 80s, that whole, you know, the stuff I grew up on.
Right.
You know, that's what started me playing, and I'd never really gotten to do it properly.
It was like Priest up to Megadeth was what
pretty
what
much,
you kinda
yeah, like up to, like, grunge, really. You know, up till the grunge came on the scene and kind of changed the landscape a lot, which neither here nor there. But so it's something you know, just kind of like an ode to everything that I love that it made me want to do it in the first place.
Right.
And I was you know, I lived in an area where there's a very vibrant community for that kind of music. So I was like,
up here in North County.
Well, just California,
right.
Southern California in general, but you know, LA especially, and, you know, Megadeth basically is from San Diego.
Right.
Yeah, you know, whatever it is. Yeah, this is where I ended up. I was like, fuck it, I'm going to do it here. I'm close enough to LA, you know, close enough to San Francisco. And the initial idea was I was going to basically do a Probot record, the thing that Dave Grohl had done years ago, where he composed material specifically for singers that he admired. And he made basically a record that was a love letter to all these guys. And I'd met some really good vocalists over the years that I'd always wanted to work with. You were one of them. And I approached you. I approached the singer from Black Wizard. I approached Telford. He played bass for the Hookers, but he was also a phenomenal singer in Spread Eagle. There's some other people, I can't remember everybody, but you responded the quickest. And I knew exactly what I wanted to write for you. And because you've got this, like, it's like this right in between Paul Di'Anno and Ronnie James Dio, where, like, you're not as theatric as Ronnie James Dio, but you got the chops, but you got more of the.
But I'm also not a Bowery boy like Paul Di'Anno. Like,
right.
I'm not quite as rough as Paul Di'Anno,
right.
but I've got a little grit.
Right, exactly. And it was just like, you know, biker metal, and like you know, first 3 records from Priest, that kind of stuff. So,
right.
So I wrote what ended up becoming Twin Wizards, this shirt that we're selling. That was the first thing I wrote, and it was the 3rd attempt I had made at demoing out by myself, and it was the first really complete idea that I had, and I sent it to you first because it was written specifically for your voice.
Right.
And you responded, you know, right away. You were into it, and your response is like, can you write more of this? And I was like, I'm sure I can. And then I wrote End of the World, which is essentially, you know, rhythmically it's pretty much identical to Twin Wizards, but it's different riffs, so we won't get into that. But I wrote that again for your voice. And
I think of them as totally, see, from a guitar player perspective, from a drummer perspective, I'm sure it's the same.
Yeah.
But from a listener's perspective, they sound like 2 totally different modes to me.
Yeah.
You know, 2 totally different. They have a different tone to them.
Yeah. But so I wrote that one. I sent it back to you, and you got that one. And you're like, can you write like like maybe 5 more of these? Like, let's do a record. And I'm like, I mean, I don't see why not. Okay.
Yeah.
And I wrote what would be the first EP. Not every one of those songs saw the light of day, but that had Pyromania, End of the World, Going Home, and Twin Wizards, which those have been in our. Anytime we played, those have always been in the set.
Right, that EP is really good. It's lovely.
Yeah, and a couple songs that didn't really work live, and one that we have, like Man Without a Soul, which is such a bittersweet song because I love it, but it's a pain in the ass to play, so we usually don't do it.
That's on the Metal Assault comp.
Yeah, that's actually on the comp
that we're going to play for tonight.
Yeah.
In Pasadena, California.
Yeah, that recording is from. So the very first session that I did in a proper studio was Twin Wizards, End of the World, and Deceiver, which was the cover that would eventually make it onto our EP. Now, interestingly enough, the whole reason I did Deceiver was just as a litmus test, because I was trying to go for that tone, like with the guitars and the drums and everything. So I was A and Bing the original songs that I was writing to those records, and it was sounding close. I was like, you know what? Let's really check this out. So I did one of their songs so that I could A and B one of their songs to their original recording and see just how close we were getting, and it was pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a good enough recording, and we kept it.
And famously, I had Twin Wizards mostly written before I came out, but everything else I did most of the writing at your then girlfriend's kitchen table.
Yeah.
The day before we went into the studio.
Yeah.
And one thing that's kind of been common with both recording sessions that we did is because I had to fly out here and do this stuff. The recording process is much more like it's much more like doing a demo.
Yeah.
But it's a demo that we released, and so it has this it has a fair amount of polish on it because it was seen through to the end mixing and mastering and production stage.
But not much.
But it also has this the grit that a demo has from kind of just hurrying to get something laid down and get an idea down.
And to be honest, that grit, I wanted it.
I wanted it too.
Yeah, I wanted
something
it.
that I like about it.
I wanted it to sound like those shitty fucking metal tapes that were getting handed out back in the day. You know, because that was the whole idea of it. And the second session is when I did the rest of the EP, and then you came out, and I did all of it. I didn't have a lineup. It was just me. Didn't even have any idea of doing this as a band because it wasn't until you came out and you did the vocals, and that was a crazy weekend, by the way.
Yeah, that was a crazy weekend.
That was one last hurrah. That weekend is the reason why, to this day, when I listen to that EP, I can still taste a drip.
I think you sent Christina with me to the beach so that I wouldn't drown because I wanted to go swimming around in there fully clothed.
That's true.
And that was when... pretty much we were in the studio all day, and then at night I was just drinking Coors Banquet Stubbies that I got from the convenience store up the street, and we were just sitting up.
There's a bottle of tequila that got polished off that weekend.
Oh, yeah,
too.
the bottle of tequila, too. Yeah. And then just going into the studio and just recording vocals all day long. And that was, we hadn't done any live playing by that point, had we?
No. Oh, no, we did. We, because I did, like I said, End of the World and Twin Wizards is the first session. So when MF Ruckus came out on tour,
that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, we pulled you guys into the rehearsal studio, and we learned them that day, and then went and performed them before your set that night.
What's the name of the club?
It was the Shakedown.
The Shakedown. Was that the show we played with Eat the Turnbuckle, the former Bad Luck 13 Riot Extravaganza guys, or was
that was a legit Monolith show. That was with Red Fang.
That's right. That was a Monolith show. I'm trying to remember who we played with at that Ruckus
That was
show.
You guys played with this one band, and they brought the one guy who was heckling you, and it got a little ugly.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That's right. I remember that.
Yeah. Good times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the first. So we'd played it live, so you had a pretty good grasp on those two songs, and then, but after we finished the session where you came out and recorded all your vocals, we were sitting in my car in the parking lot at the studio listening to the dailies before it went off to mix. Like all the raw stuff, we got all the tracking done, and we were both sitting there in silence the entire duration of all 8 songs that we had done. And after it was done, you just went, "We need to make this a band." And I was like, I was like, "Do you know what you're getting yourself into here?" You're like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Okay, we can do this."
I think the original idea at that point was let's just record.
Yeah,
something.
it was just gonna be something to put out for fun,
Yeah.
you know. And then we both really enjoyed it. So I was like, "All right." So I started recruiting people.
Yeah, and you had this vision for it pretty early on of being a modular band. I remember you saying that.
Yeah. The idea being that there's a core, and then everyone else would be, for the most part, interchangeable. And to an extent, that worked. And to an extent, once we found the lineup that we are currently with, you know, those are the only guys.
All right, let's break it down. How many drummers?
1. Well, 2.
Well, we had
Two.
Ben, and then
Rod filled in for the Denver
in
shows.
for the one.
So 2.
Yeah. So Ben's been a mainstay. Bass players.
Bass player, we're on
Gordo,
Tadeus. Yeah, Kevin.
That kid was too young to be in that band, man.
Yeah, he was. Tadeus, Kevin, and then John.
Right.
Then
I never even got to play with Kevin. Because
No,
that
you
was
didn't.
all
Yeah, that was all
Keith era
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, era.
Keith era. Yeah. Shout out to Keith McIntosh, man.
Yeah, Keith. We'll get to him.
Yeah. Okay, so then how many guitar players besides you?
So Jono was the original guitar
Shout
player.
out to Jono. Love you, Jono.
Yeah, Jono's the man. Jono Lanasa. And then after
he just got super busy with
he wanted to
dirty
do
work, right?
Yeah, he wanted to do a band with his boys.
Right.
And he didn't have time for both, and it was, you know, he was straight up with me. He finished out the shows he agreed to, and that was that.
I love John Olanasi.
Yeah,
to this day. And I haven't seen him in years, but I love him, man. He's a great dude.
after Jono left was right about the time the Nightcrawlers were splitting up, and I wanted Jared the first time I saw him.
He's such a good guitar
Yeah,
player,
the first time I ever saw the Nightcrawlers was like, that's the guy right there,
dude. And we talked about this earlier, like a super fascinating. Like this part of the country is super unique, you know, because you think of a place like San Diego or LA and you think of it as being a big city, but it has this like small town element where like people never leave their community. There are people like that they just hang around the beach and they're like, why would I go anywhere?
Yeah,
I got everything. There's beautiful women. There's like great places to hang out. There's good food.
Everyone
there's
comes to us.
Right. Everybody comes to us.
Yeah.
Like, and when Jared joined the band, he was super young.
Yep.
He was doing Night Crawlers. Was he doing Great Electric Quest by that point?
No, he joined Great Electric Quest while that was while you were still in the band, but that was a little bit later on.
Right. And he was just like the first time he had been out of Oceanside, to my knowledge, or out of the San Diego region was when we drove up to San Francisco to play with Get Dead and the Sorority, right?
Yeah, and Flexx Bronco.
And Flexx Bronco, yeah.
Yeah.
That was the first time Jared had been out of Southern California.
Yeah, and you know the Nightcrawlers played for years, and they always did really well in North County.
Right.
And like I said though, the first time I saw that guy play guitar, I was like,
Dude, there is something about North County that is just is really badass. And I noticed that like when I first started coming out here and playing shows, seeing this like healthy and vibrant community of people that were into classic metal and like proto metal type of stuff. You know, you had the guys from Red Wizard and the guys from Great Electric Quest and Toke and War Chief and
War Chief is they're
LA, but
yeah.
I consider them part of that like Southern California, you know, metal revival.
Well, Harsh Toke, yeah.
Harsh Toke, that's what it is, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's a great. We're right next to the desert too, so all the desert metal comes through here. You know, it's like I said, it's a little bit different than the LA metal community. It's a lot different than the San Francisco metal community.
Right.
It's just it's its own thing, and it's a lot of it's just more about the party.
North County, like, by the way, a Kentucky boy and a Denver boy hanging out in North County, we stick out like a sore thumb here. You know what I mean? There's like, I was making the joke last night when we were hanging out after the show, and like Jared lives in a completely wild fucking like Lord of the Flies Peter Pan paradise of a house, right? And you know, we're basically after every show, right around the corner from the poorhouse.
Bar, yeah.
Yeah. So after the show, everybody goes over there, and everything just goes sideways, and you're throwing, you're throwing axes at flaming wood, and people are painting on stuff.
There's usually some fire involved at some point.
There's fire involved at some people up on the roof.
Oh, always people on the roof. Usually people up on the roof causing the fire.
Right.
Yeah, you know, it's like I said, every time I go there, there's a certain point in the night where I realize it's time to get the fuck out.
Yeah.
And
it's so beach, man.
Yeah,
it's such
it
a
really
beach
is.
community thing, and it's really funny to like witness for a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But the fact that you and I don't drink, it's like, okay, this is starting to get a little.
Yeah, you can feel when it starts to turn south a little bit.
But I have this picture of Jared from one of the first times we hung out, and it's in his backyard, and he's trying to build a bonfire, and so he's got these like secondhand books that he's tearing up and using as kindling. And I look at him, and he's ripping up a book by Napoleon Hill, and it's like the 7 Keys to Success or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like a follow-up to Think and Grow Rich. And Jared's just sitting there tearing off pages and throwing them in the fire. I'm like, have you read this? And he's like, no, what is it? And I'm like that was just such an Oceanside moment for me to like. And I got a picture of him holding the book upside down and just kind of looking at me like, oh, no way. Like, it's a lot of fun. I love Jared to death.
Well, anyway, the second guitar player was Jared. He replaced Jono. Fantastic guitar player. Different style. You know, he's got a much more soulful rock and roll style, but he can burn on it too.
Right.
And once he joined the band, I was like, that's it. No more guitar players.
We got it worked out, yeah.
And then he joined the Great Electric Quest on bass, and he got busier, so there were times where we would have to bring people in and out. So we used to alternate between Tyler Johnson, who tried out for the band initially, but we went with Jono instead. And so he would fill in from time to time. And then John Norwood, who's now part of our bass roster, well, he's our permanent bass player.
He's our permanent bass player.
He's gone back and forth between filling in on bass and filling in on guitar just based on what's needed, because he's just that kind of guy.
Right.
You know, John is the most rock solid guy, you know, ever. And you give him the material, he works his ass off, he comes in, he's like, well, I didn't quite learn it the way you wanted it, but here's what I did instead. And you tell me if it works, and if it doesn't work, I'll go and I'll learn it your way. And everything he's ever shown me has worked perfectly. Just dependable as shit. So it's weird because he's been in the band twice, I guess. God, it's so fucking crazy.
Right.
So Jared's,
how long have we been a band, Doug?
I started writing in 2013, so it's been 7 years since the project kind of came together.
It's a long time, man.
Yeah, you know, 7 years, 7 shows, whatever.
Yeah. I'm starting to think I broke a mirror at some point.
Right. And then so let's see, Jono, Jared, John, Jesus.
Jono, Jared, John.
And Tyler. So that's 4 different guitar players besides myself. No one has ever played. I'm the only person who's played every show. Ben is in second place. He's only missed like 5 shows.
And we've had 3 singers, right?
2.
I thought we had somebody else who stepped in after Keith left before I came back.
You were the original singer, and then when we wanted to get a little bit busier and the schedules weren't working out, we got Keith in. And Keith was with us for about 1.5 years, and we did some stuff with him, never really recorded anything.
And by the way, I'm going to go on the record as saying that Keith McIntosh is technically a way better singer than I am.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he has the voice of an angel. Beautiful singer.
Yeah, Keith's got a great voice. And, you know, he enjoyed the music, but I don't ever think it was really, I think he likes the more polished kind of power metal stuff.
Right.
You know, and phenomenal voice, and his band Horizon is constantly putting out material. So he's happier with that, and you know, it was again an amicable parting. I don't think we've had. Well, Tadeus was a little bit ugly when he left, just because he quit day of a show. With Gordo, it was kind of a very mutual thing.
Right.
So I had to think about what I was saying
good
for a
spin.
second. Thank you,
Good
thank
spin.
you, thank you. So, anyway, so Keith came out in after you. Eventually, he wanted to just do Horizon, and when that happened, I was just kind of at a point where, like,
You were ready to shelve it.
I was out. Well,
that was the exact words he used to me. It was like, I'm just ready to shelve this project.
Yeah, not necessarily break it up, but
Right.
just. Okay.
And we talked about that. Like, there's a difference between stopping and quitting.
Yeah, because I pushed it. I pushed it really, really, really hard the first couple of years, and it was as much as the idea of a modular band being able to function at all times, no matter what. It works on paper, but it's a lot of work for one person to take on.
Right.
And
I mean, I was meeting people on stage.
Yeah.
Like there were
literally.
times where, like, I want to say I met John on stage.
You met Tyler on stage.
I met
as well.
Tyler on stage. I met Rod on stage.
Yep.
I want to say I even met Jared Tadeus on stage.
No, you'd met Jared before because we had played with the Nightcrawlers.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But other than that, yeah, pretty much everybody else.
Yeah.
And but it's a lot.
And you don't have it. You kind of want those bonds. You kind of want to have your stand by the person that you can depend on.
And when you're writing material too, when you're writing with the idea of making it modular, that means you have to kind of be careful about putting too much of your own nuance into the material because it might be tougher for someone else to pick up on.
Right.
So you kind of have to write with a more generalized idea of playing the songs.
Well, and you end up with contributors who don't feel like they're a contributor.
Not so much. If
you don't feel like anybody felt like they didn't have ownership of the band because it was all established.
At first, when we were first doing it, it was more of a employee-employer kind of situation, and I don't think it was quite.
That changed for sure.
Yeah, that did change, and it wasn't until we got Jared in, and we got the lineup that I kind of wanted all along, but I was in a hurry to get a lineup together, so I made it modular.
Right.
And it got to the point with Keith kind of got to the point where he felt like he's like, I'm going out and singing someone else's songs every night. And so, I was like, okay, well, let's write some. And
just like Mark Wahlberg and Rockstar.
Yeah, just like it, yeah. Yeah. And
that's exactly how he felt.
Yeah, man. And we tried to write some material with him, and it was
different.
Yeah, it was different writing with him. It wasn't better or worse. It just was different, and I was kind of stalling out on it anyway because I was just getting burnt out, and the band I wasn't writing when Keith was in the band that much. The stuff I would write, I'd write a song and it would be good enough, and then a week later I'd be like, nope, this sucks.
So I don't remember what got us back together. Like what?
Buddy Donner got us back together.
Buddy Donner got us back together?
Yeah.
Hey, shout out to Buddy Donner from the Great Electric Quest and Sabbath Buddy Sabbath.
We had been. Well, okay, no, because I think we did a show after Keith left with you.
We did the Black Pussy show,
right?
At House of Bricks or
Brick by Brick.
Brick by Brick. House of Bricks is in Des Moines. Yeah, right. Brick by Brick. Yeah.
No, yeah. So Keith had left the band, and we had that show coming up. So I tucked my tail between my legs to ask you to come back and do it.
I don't even think he was out all the way, was he? He just couldn't do the show that weekend.
Oh, that's right. You
and
filled
I was just
in
filling
for Keith.
Because we went and had breakfast with Keith after the show.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that wasn't bringing you back in. After Keith left, when I shelved it then, I didn't do anything for like a year or two. And then
nothing at all? I thought you were filling in with people.
Oh, I mean not with Monolith.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Monolith was shelved. I was playing with Call of the Wild, and I spent like a year building up Space Force into something before we started playing shows, and I was busier with that. I had auditioned for a gig acts but didn't get the gig.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, it's still cool to get the audition.
Mucho got it. What can I say?
Mucho got it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can't get mad about that. It's like, oh, yeah,
I mean,
course.
He's a bitchin' drummer.
Yeah,
man.
I'm like, well, I'd take him.
I mean, not that you're not a bitchin' drummer.
No, I'm not that bitchin'. I'm not as bitchin' as
anyone who watched the stream last night during the Livin' Alive set got to see very early on what kind of drummer Mucho is. By the way, if you're watching the stream right now, after you're done watching this, go check out the Livin' Alive set on the stream we ran from the Poorhouse last night, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Mucho is sick.
So we were kind of inactive. I hadn't planned on doing anything with it, and then Buddy called us out. Buddy was just straight up like, when the fuck is the next Monolith show? And I was like, all right, tell you what, I'll set a show up, do a show with us with the Quest. He's like, well, so we got his other band to do it, and you know how it goes. And
was that the first show back? That Sabbath Buddy Sabbath show at the Poorhouse?
Yeah, that was the last show we did.
Really?
Yeah, we didn't do anything.
Oh yeah,
it's because it's been a year and a half since
time
we did
flies,
a show.
man.
Yeah. So we set those shows up. You came out. We played. It was a good time, and I was like, okay, from here on out, every now and then, let's pick up and do a show.
And it's always been fun since we did that. And I felt guilty because right around the time that we did the records was at the end of when I was drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And I got divorced. I stopped drinking. I started getting my life together, started going in a different direction. And when that happened, I started leaning really hard into Ruckus.
Yeah.
And so because I leaned so hard into it, we started getting a lot of traction, which has obviously since died down. There's only so much you can do with playing less than 20 shows a year.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, it happens. But we were really starting to create some opportunities and get some traction, and some things were happening. And you wanted to have a full-time band. And being a band dad in my own band, I understood that, and I think when you made the call and we had the conversation,
yeah,
we were both on the same page about that.
Yeah, because it'd been one of those things where it wasn't a decision that I made quickly. I thought about it a lot, and what it came down to is that I understood. I was like, dude, I get it, but at the same point in time, like, I got guys here that want to do shit,
right?
And it's a good lineup. I want to keep it going.
And you met that pretty long-haired singer,
yeah,
Keith McIntosh, with the voice of an angel and his nice skin. And
well, and that was the whole thing too. Is I was like, I didn't think I was gonna find anyone at all, and then Keith just kind of fell into my lap, and
that was a very funny visual in my head, by the way. Just him
that's what I was going for. But I was like, I hit him up. I was like, would you be interested? He's like, maybe, let me check it out. And he checked it out. I was like, and I talked it over with Ben and Jared, and I was like, let's bring him out, see how he sounds, and if it works, then we'll keep going, and if not, then we'll just go work on other shit for a little while.
Right.
And he did a good job when he came out. I was like, okay, this can work. And that's when I called you to be like, okay, yeah, we've got someone who can do it. We're gonna give this a shot, and everything you've done up to this point still counts. The band's still built around you, but maybe I think I even said at the time, maybe things will change down the line. And sure enough,
yeah.
Sure enough.
I mean, and when you asked me to pick it back up, like, I kind of knew at the Black Pussy show that Keith was starting to move away.
Yeah.
Like, I knew at that point.
So,
by the way, something that just popped into my head. There's a picture from that show, and like the first comment underneath it is, "I'll bet that singer owns a kayak." And it's like, now listen, people, this is what a rocker looks like in Colorado. Okay. I thought that was really funny. I like that. And they're not wrong. I don't own a kayak, but my uncle and aunt are river guides,
right.
So that's true.
Keith and I had really different ways of seeing how we wanted things done too. Like I said, he likes a much more polished kind of modern sounding thing, and I like it to be dirty.
Right.
Like, and he's a precision type of guy, and I'm a raw energy type of guy.
Right.
And so there was always a possibility it wasn't going to mesh well. And like I said, like, I was going through a world of shit outside of band stuff.
Right. You were under a lot of stress.
Yeah, like and everything all at the same time. Just
you left your whole world behind to come move out here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then when the thing that you come out here for falls apart, and then your band falls apart.
Yeah.
You know, that'll do a lot to you.
Yeah, you know, it was a fun time.
Yeah, you know, had a good
I'd
time.
recommend it. You know, what doesn't kill us, right?
Right.
It makes us crazier.
Yeah.
Whatever. But yeah, you know, Keith was pretty much done before he quit, and it was cool, and I just didn't think to do anything of it. But yeah, Buddy was like, play a fucking show, god damn it. And I was like, fine, I will. And I hit you up, you were down, we set a time, you know, we booked the show.
I mean, I'm not going to say no to a trip to California to play with my bitchin' metal band.
Yeah.
You know? Like, we have done some really cool stuff.
Yeah, and that last time we did it too, we finally had the lineup right, where John was on bass and Jared was on guitar, and the
band was tight.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of it too was when we played that Poorhouse show, I got to get reacquainted with the North County love.
Yeah.
And man, every time Monolith is played in North County, and most of the times we played in LA, not so much in Orange County, but we won't talk about that. But every time we've played here, specifically in North County, we have gotten so much love.
Oh, yeah.
And people are so happy to see us. Even the people who don't know who we are and just happen to be in the bar, like, just there's something about North County that is very enthusiastic about a good rock and roll band. And I got to experience that, and I was like, well, I can do this every once in a while. I could even do another record. I can, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when there are times I hate ever trying to sound egotistical or arrogant, but
here it goes.
But I'm going to anyway, because fuck them. That's why.
Because fuck them.
No, I think that I always try to have a certain level of authenticity to the stuff that I wrote for Monolith, and it was always I've always been more about being heavy through subtlety than being heavy through being obvious about it, you know. And that's why, you know, it's got like the thinner guitar tones,
right?
And it's more about I try to make it more about nuance. And we happen to have the guys who are playing in the band that get it. They get what I want it to be, and they want it to be the same thing.
Right.
And there's, you know, you said the other night, you know, the guys respect the material a whole lot.
Right. And I love those guys. That's the other thing too. Like, I love you.
Yeah.
But Jared and John and Ben, like, I adore those guys.
Yeah, they're great dudes.
And so, like, it's like, oh, you know, I get to go see my friends in California. The only catch is I've got to do a Monolith show.
Yeah, you know, in the perfect world, we could do it every night and get paid really well and be able to live in two places because of teleportation, but, you know.
Hey, man, it's coming.
Yeah,
we're going to get into the singularity, and we'll be able to upload our consciousness.
We can just do it so that everyone has an Oculus and we VR you in.
It's coming, dude.
Yeah, man. So, you know,
it's not that far off.
It is. You know, I enjoy you know, I have a blast playing the material, especially, you know, when I take a long break from it and I come back from it.
Right.
You know, because I've been doing strictly rock and roll guitar for 2 years, like just Helicopters worship day in and day out.
Right.
And, you know, and I did some work with Flexx Bronco, too, which is, again, rock and roll.
Yeah, you got to do Guadalajara with Flexx Bronco. That's really cool,
that was a lot of fun. And, you know, and their material, it's rock and roll, but it's still not, like...
I love Flexx Bronco.
It's
I
not,
love that band.
Like, Monolith has some legitimate acrobatic shit going on, and it's not, like... It's because of the weird rhythms that I use.
Mm.
And
I definitely didn't write the lyrics or the vocal arrangements with performance in mind, and now all those songs are ridiculously hard to sing live.
Yeah, it's funny.
So when you talk about playing every night and like doing a tour or something, the first thing I think about is like, I'm gonna die.
If anyone watching, you know, if you go back and you watch that Living Alive, you first and foremost go ahead and watch the Heroin too, because you owe it to yourself.
Oh man, it was so good. It was the whole show last night was great.
Yeah, and when you get done with that, you can watch us, and you'll notice that every song or so, maybe two, all of us are shaking our hands. Everyone's going "fuck,"
right?
Because we're all sore and out of shape, and
right.
You know, but
yeah, man. I'm like, what? I was joking about on stage. If you saw the live stream, you know what I'm talking about. I'm like, get on stage after watching the Heroin play, and I'm like, I'm not doing that shit.
Yeah.
doing kicky flips. No kicky flips with the mic stand.
Yeah.
It's like, you'll be lucky if I tap my foot. Like,
yeah, man, I'll tell you, the first time I saw them, too, I saw him pull that James Brown shit. I was like, dude, this guy.
Yeah.
This guy is something else.
He's awesome, man.
Yeah.
They're definitely one of my new favorite bands on the circuit. And I had seen them before, but somehow I didn't give them their due attention. You know, they were like probably just in the background at Three Kings or something like that, and I didn't give them their due attention.
They were coming through. We met them, called the Wild, play with them. We got asked to play with them on a Tuesday night at the Moreau down in San Diego, and you could probably imagine Tuesday nights are not typically heavily attended.
Right.
And so I was like, yeah, you know, the guy who is putting on the show is like a local radio DJ. So it's like, yeah, you know, we might as well do a solid, you know, go show up, smile, shake hands, kiss babies.
Right.
And we showed up, and the first band was up there pretty good. And then we played and did our thing, and then Aaron got up there, and I was like, holy shit.
That band is really good.
And they did it to an empty, they were dry firing, man. They did it to an empty room, and they were still on fire the whole time.
Well, you got to do the same shit. You got to do the same show because you never know who's going to be there, man.
And I absolutely fell in love with them, and I started talking to Isaac, the singer, afterwards, and he was just the nicest guy. So, you know, that was cool. And then a few months later, we got asked to play another show with them on a Sunday at the Tower Bar in the afternoon. And I was like, and as you can imagine, afternoon shows on a Sunday are not terribly well attended.
Right.
So again, you know, they dry fired away, and they had their new guitar player that they had with them tonight, like last night, and that kid is incredible.
He is so good.
Yeah. And they just lit the place on fire in an empty room. And after that show, I had a long talk with Isaac, you know, about life and music in general. And I gave him my number. I was like, the next time you are booking a tour, you give me a weekend night, and you let me book it, and let me get you in front of some people. And because, you know, you guys are too good to be playing empty rooms. And they've been at it for a long time.
Right.
You know, so they came up again, and they played with Space Force at the Poorhouse, which is the other band that I play guitar for. Shout out. And it was a pretty good show. And then, you know, they went through, and they were coming back through, and I was like, you know, I want to get them on a really, you know, heavily attended show. Who can I get? So my first thought was the Nightcrawlers, which is Jared's other band that I sometimes play drums for, because they always pack that place. And couldn't really make it happen. I was like, dude, what if we did a Monolith show and see if we can't draw some people out for them?
Right.
And, you know, I hit up John and Ben, and they were both like, yeah, let's do it. Hit you up. You're like, yeah, give me a date. And date worked out. So, and it was like, well, if we're going to do the one, got to do the second one.
Right.
So it just so happened Andrew was doing the Metal Assault 10th anniversary mixtape series.
Yeah.
And
shout out to Andrew Bansal.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, metalassault.com up in LA is the most real deal in California.
Yeah.
They're the heart of the metal underground.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he's been keeping it going
he's
for
our
10
dude,
years.
man. That he's done almost every show that we've done in LA. Almost.
Yeah, he's a great guy. And so he was like, yeah, I'm doing this tape series. Do you guys want to be on it? And I was like, yeah, you know, I have some stuff that was unreleased, you know, from the original sessions. And so we dusted off Man Without a Soul and sent it to him, and he's like, you know, we're going to do a release show too. It just so happens to be the day after the show you just booked. I was like, perfect.
Right.
So we're doing that up in Pasadena tonight with our boys in Void Vader.
Yeah, if you're anywhere near Pasadena or the LA area, we are going to be at the Old Town Pub.
Old Town Pub in Pasadena.
For the Metal Assault mixtape release party.
And he only made 50 copies of it, and they're selling quick.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that, man. It's going to be a lot of fun, too.
Yeah, Album of the Week in LA Weekly, folks.
Yeah? Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So what do you think, just kind of wrapping this up, what do you think is the future for us in this band?
Oh, that's an awful big question to ask me while you got me in front of all these people.
It's like, actually, we were going to part ways with you after this weekend.
Well, I was going to kill you and grind you up into kibble for the cats, but...
Oh, right.
No, I don't know.
We are at the Deer
know,
Creek house, or Wolf Creek house.
I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, if I can find some cool opportunities for us to do, then I'm going to get them. You know, if I can I'm not really interested in, grinding.
Right.
But
you've already got bands that you're grinding in.
Yeah. But if there's something cool that comes along, for whatever reason, as I don't want to say as little as we did, but as little as we toured, we seem to have some clout in certain circles. Like the people who like us, like, really fucking like us,
right?
Because they like people. I guess it resonates because they get what we're doing,
right?
And if that turns into something where we get a chance to travel somewhere we've never been, or go play somewhere else, maybe make a little bit of money, maybe just get an experience out of it, then cool.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm into it, dude.
Yeah, totally.
I'm into it, man.
Yeah.
Well, Doug, thank you so much for sitting down and
thank
talking
you for
with
having
me,
me.
man.
Yeah,
I really
absolutely.
appreciate it. I knew I wanted to do something while I was out there, and I was short an episode on the schedule anyway. So
I can talk shit for hours.
Oh,
man.
dude. I mean, we probably could have gone a lot longer.
Oh,
but,
sure.
But both of us have coronavirus right now.
Yeah.
Which maybe you're not supposed to joke about, but we certainly feel like shit.
Well,
right
someone
now.
told me apparently Lyme disease goes very well with it.
Oh my god. Good night, everybody. Hey, no, dude, seriously,
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
I love you like a brother,
For
and
sure,
I love being a
man.
part of this project, and thank you for having me back, and yeah, man, it's just, it's been a crazy year,
Already.
and just being able to come out and play a show for a bunch of smiling, happy people,
Shouting your lyrics back to you.
yeah, dude, it really. It put a nice bookend on 2020 for me, man. I'm like really
Good, man.
I'm excited to see how the rest of the year looks, and I'm excited to see what we do together, man. And let's do another record. I'm
Yeah,
into it, man.
absolutely.
Thanks everybody for watching the stream. Thanks for listening to the podcast. If you're near Pasadena, again, we're playing tonight at the Old Town Pub for the Metal Assault release party. Get your advanced order of the T-shirt now that you'll see up in the right-hand side of the screen, because we're going to sell a shitload of them at the show tonight. If you
Yeah, they were going pretty quick last night.
Yeah, they
too.
were going pretty quick last night. So if you want to reserve one, make sure you go to MF Ruckus or mfruckus.bigcartel.com and get yours while they last. Also, yeah, actually, that's it, man. That's it. That's all I've got to say. I've got to pee and my throat hurts, and
Fuck it.
let's go smoke a little weed and then drive up to LA, man.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, guys. We love you very much. We'll catch you next time on the motherfucking podcast. I'm Aaron, and Gordo and everybody else is not here. So shout out to my man, Doug Walker over here from Monolith and Space Force and Call of the Wild.
Fucking
and
every goddamn band.
every goddamn band. Hey, man, being a hired gun is pretty bitchin'.
Yeah,
if you ask
man.
me.
It's I love it.
I don't get the opportunity to do it much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for listening. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll catch you next time. Bye. Oh, okay. Yeah, it was fun, man.
I love how both of us were just haggard all morning. As soon as the song, I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah, we're the morning zoo crew, man. Oh. Ah.
Yeah.
I'm trapped. My foot's stuck. My foot's stuck under the thing.